Welcome and thank you for joining us. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Many of us try to find a particular guidance or compass that leads us in a way that makes things hopefully work out for the better. But a lot of times when we follow our inner voice, that is, when we're actually listening to it, we kind of find ourselves astray and things just don't seem to be working out the way that we anticipated, or hoped, or even dreamed. Well, perhaps the best thing we can perhaps do is find a way that we can find a philosophy that will actually work and guide us in the direction that we intend to go and see it all work out in a way that makes us happy, finding that inner bliss that makes us tick. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is author of The 10-Second Philosophy. It's a practical guide to releasing your inner genius. And Derek Mills is going to be sharing his story about what this is all about and how you can perhaps find something that in just 10 seconds will make you find the right way to go. Derek, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Daniel, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, how did all this start for you? Tell us about that.
In terms of the shift itself, it started when I one day woke up from the sleep I was in and realized that the life I'd been living was one that wasn't mine. I think many of us can relate to that, where we're living a life that we think is based upon what the company says, the media, neighbours, society, culturally. And sometimes we live a whole life and get to the end of it and we say to ourselves, that wasn't even my life. Mm-hmm. I'm meant to do this and to be this and to experience this, and we never do. Some time ago, I got to age 38, and I realized that the life I was living wasn't even mine. I was living a life of what's called non-self. And of course, we all know we can't be happy not as our true selves. So in a moment, I was given a blessing from the universe that really gave me a chance to go inside and to listen to what was really inside of me, to stop living as non-self and begin to listen to the inner voice, my inner sagacity, my inner wisdom, and be guided by my inner guru. And the reason I'm speaking with you on this show today is because as I followed that inner guru that's inside each of us, my life turned around so dramatically that I was asked to mentor, to coach, to teach, to speak around the world, and to write a book for Hay House. And really that's in a very, very short period of time.
It's pretty exciting because I think we get to a point, and it starts, who knows for all of us, but it does start a long, long time ago, that we reach out because we want answers, and we want to know how to do things, and we want to be sure that when we do, that we're doing the best of those things, we're doing those things completely correct, so that we don't make mistakes. When did we get to a point, do you think, at least for you anyway, that we stopped counting on ourselves, that we just didn't know that from within ourselves we had all the answers all the time?
I think the challenges that most people face in their lives, because when I spent time counselling and coaching people, listen to their story of how they, the problems and challenges that led them to this place. And it doesn't matter whether they are, wealthy or count themselves as being successful. They're normally in the room because they're having challenges or problems. And that might be what you might call real challenges and problems, or challenges and problems around growth and becoming who they are. And one of the first things I say, which because of the interesting question you just posed, is I say, your lack of trust in yourself has led you here, to this place, to this point. Because most people don't trust themselves. And when does that start? It starts from childhood, where through early learning years, through school, through senior school, and then through the media that we have and the world we slip into, we're told, hey, you're not good enough. You need to be like these people to be successful. And most people are given their quantification of success from outside of themselves. And when you said, that we kind of we look around, I think the answer to this for all of us, instead of looking out and looking around, is to instead look within. Because we came here with the gifts and abilities, we came into this world, and we had part of the universe within us because we are part of the universe. We came here with this wisdom and this knowledge and these gifts and these abilities, and we had them before we were born, and that's what we will be when we've gone from this place. So what's really happened for each of us, for me, you, and everybody else, is the world has moved us away from the truth that's inside of us and brought us into the world. And the real journey is to how to let go of that world and to rediscover and then to be our truth.
Now, you're known as a standards guy. What is that?
You know, the gurus out there tell us, you know, the Brian Tracy's, the Joel Koenigs, and pretty much every other teacher that exists that I listened to for about 18 years, they told me, you and everybody else, you know, the key to success is setting goals. And that if you set goals, you want to be happy and successful, you've got to have goals. Well, here's a question. For everyone that's listening to this conversation right now, if that is true, how's that working out for you? Because most people that I've met, you know, India, Asia, Far East, Europe, UK, America, you know, the research has been done to death, and I ask them, those people, hey, have you set goals? And most people say, yeah. And I ask them, have you achieved your goals and your life goals? And most people say, actually, no. Leslie PR did some research last year in North America when we launched the book at the end of the year. And the research that came back was that 3% of North Americans said they were achieving their goals. So the question I'd like to put to anyone listening to this conversation is, how do we get to a place over the last 100 years where everybody believes that to be happy and successful, it's about setting goals? And I would say, what if that isn't the case? Because that isn't working out for most people. How's it working out for you, the listener? How's it working out for your community, for your school, for your business? How's it working out for your country? How's it working out for the world? Because if goals were all we need to be happy and successful as individuals and as a collective, everyone that you know and everyone that I know would now be happy and successful, because everywhere I go, people have set goals, but they haven't got the success. So here's the thing. When I first went inside myself and discovered my own true self, my genius, the great and amazing thing about each of us, we get to go inside and begin to discover who we truly are and our gifts. And my genius said to me, stop setting goals. You've been setting goals, Derek, for 18 years. And after 18 years, you are a failure, broken, depressed, and a failure on every area that matters to you. Goals don't work. Instead of setting goals based on external and egoic structures, set goals from the inside. Discover who you truly are. Discover the being that you came here as. Because, by the way, that's the real you. And set standards from that place. No more goals. Go inside and look at the 5 key aspects of a standard, which is a baseline, a criteria, a level, a quality, or a rule that you set from within, from your truth. And then you live from that place just one day at a time. Not even for a week. Just one day at a time. Just until we put our heads back on our pillows tonight. Stick to our standards. When we do that, we change. And when we change, everything changes for us.
You know, it's pretty exciting when you think about something such as a standard versus a goal, because a lot of times people will take a look and say, well, you know, you don't look like you've really moved to where you want to be because you haven't really set any goals for yourself. I remember a long time ago, I was sitting in front of a psychiatrist and, you know, just trying to kind of figure out what in the heck is going on with my life. I just felt this certain sense of dissatisfaction. I don't know, just I wasn't really very fulfilled. And I said, you know, I just don't feel very motivated. And she says, well, do you have any goals? And I'd never even thought about something like that before, you know. And when I was in school, you know, it was pretty easy. You know, there were sports that you played, and there were things that you did, and it was a natural flow to, I guess, being competitive in things that interested me. But nobody ever actually put that particular word in front of me before, you know, what goals do you have? And she says, well, do you have any goals? And I said, well, almost as though that was sort of a foreign word, like, well, what do you mean goals? You know, and she says, well, that's why you don't feel very motivated. Oh, okay, I didn't realize it was that simple, goals. And really, after leaving that particular day, I don't know that I felt any better about that piece of advice, like, well, what goals do I have, and, you know, do I express the way that I feel, sort of a thing. And I don't know what she's doing this day and age, but hopefully she's not continuing to practice psychotherapy, because I didn't feel any better off after I left, and of course never went back. And you can find that kind of attitude, I think, in a lot of people, just as you were talking about, the idea of standards and goals, that a lot of times that instinctively we live and we get excited about things, and then there are those moments that we just don't feel all that excited about things. And, in the 10-second philosophy, tapping into your true self, that's something that, again, we just don't know. Tell us how we can get to that point where we can count on ourselves again.
Okay. I think one of the first things is to recognize is that, so if we had a process that people were using all around the world, millions of people living and dying, their children living and dying, and most of those people didn't have whatever success is and happiness from that system, how long does it take to change that system before somebody says, hold on a second, this isn't working? So just a thought. Here's the thing, that goals, well, it doesn't matter if you set a goal for next week, next month, next year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it's future-based. And as human beings, here's what we do. We say to ourselves that when I have that thing, that job, that promotion, that partner in my life, when I'm that weight, we say to ourselves, and I've tried this all around the world, and I always ask the audience, when I've got this, that, then I will be, and they always respond as I have my hand to my ear, they say, happy. And I say, interesting. Because is happiness a future experience, or is happiness a now experience? Because we cannot be happy in the future. You cannot say, well, 2016, 2027, I'm happy. No, you can't experience happiness now in this very moment. So by the very fact of setting goals, we defer as human beings, we attach happiness and contentment, I just call it all happiness, to that goal. How do we know this? Because I haven't met a person yet anywhere around the world who has told me, Derek, I set goals to be unhappy. Not even one person has told me that. So naturally, everyone sets goals to have some measure, to less or greater degree, of happiness or contentment or goodness, a good feeling, whatever. So here's the thing. Happiness is a now experience. So when we set standards, here's what we do. Instead of falling into the trap of the last 100 years or the story of the last 100 years, maybe we consider that's just an illusion. Because great teachers have taught us that when we live a life outside of ourselves, it causes a disconnect between with our truth. We move away from the true self. Because goals set by the rest of the world or that you set based on what you think you should have, the car, that amount of income, that weight, a lot of it is external. Standards say, go inside and discover your truth. What if, and this is just a what if to consider, what if being happy and successful, the reason that we came into this physical part of our journey, what if being happy and successful is discovering that which we came here with and being that? What if it isn't? And you use the word that the psychoanalyst or psychiatrist said to you, and you use the word motivation. And I always define that as a motive to action, something outside of you that makes you act. What if in truth it's around inspiration? What if it's you already good to go as you, all your gifts and abilities and talents and passion inside of you, and it's about letting that inspiration inspire you to move and to be? And what if happiness is truly about the being that which you already are? We then move away from the non-self, and we then begin to spend the rest of our lives at 27 or 97 saying, let me just keep looking inside and discovering what I came here with. And when I discover that, to make it real in the world. And that's the process that we start with. The great thing about standards, Daniel, is that standards are set from our truth, from our true self. So we go to the place and ask the right standards for the key areas of our life, and we live actively from that place. It's a practical philosophy, not just a cerebral pontification. It's really around, we go there, we discover who we are, we set standards from that place, and just for one day, and no more than one day, we commit to sticking with the standards that came from our truth. And if God gives us tomorrow morning, that's our new today. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, Derek, because a lot of times this just seems too oversimplified for people. And we tend to want to complicate something that is really that simple. Why is that?
I think, you know what, there's no doubt that we come here as pure beings, and it's one of those really incredible things where the human experience means they have to sometimes say to themselves, this is so simple that it can't be right. This is so true that it can't be right. Let me go outside of myself. In other words, let me not trust myself and the message that came from within. Let me not follow on the guidance, the hunch, the intuition, the messages from within. Because if it was that simple, we'd all be doing it. Well, no, the enlightened people, not the educated academic people, but the enlightened people know that it is about going in. It is about pausing and stopping. So why we do that, I think it's part of being human. And it's to do with the construct of the world that we're in. When we get to stop doing that, bit by bit, when we allow ourselves to go inside and listen to the messages from within.
Now, for a lot of our listeners out there, they're thinking to themselves, okay, so standards versus goals. How does that get me anywhere, so to speak? Well, take a look at how Derek went. He went in a particular direction that led him in 3 years to become a multimillionaire. A lot of people want to drop, a couple of dollars to see if they can win the lottery to find their lives become easier. The truth is your life can become easier starting today, right at this particular moment. Give us an idea of a couple of steps in your 10-second philosophy that can help people do this starting now.
Yeah. One of the key things is that there are, I call them the 7 key areas of life, and they are areas that each of us can look at, see which area that we're most interested in, that or most concern us, or give us the most challenges. And we can work in all of these areas, and we can just pick 1 or 2. And they create a mnemonic called PERFECT. And the mnemonic is, the first one is the personal health and fitness. That's one area we can begin to set standards in. Then there's our environment, both internal and external environment. Relationships, family, emotions, career, and time. And just to kind of cut through time here and get to it, there's a download on the website where anyone that wants to can go to the website and literally download a process that does. Here's what it does, and it is where I appreciate that what I'm sharing here is not what other teachers, leaders have shared before. So I know that it's different. But I'm going to get everyone to not just challenge the teachers, but to challenge themselves and take the standards challenge. And the standards challenge then says, okay, look at the 7 key areas of your life that I've just outlined. Go to the website and be honest with yourself and say, okay, where did the standards in my life for that area come from? We can all do this right now. Where did the standards in that area or these areas of my life come from? When I was 21, from that person, from my first company, from friends I used to associate with, and then say to ourselves, okay, that's when I was 21 or 29. Now I'm 52. Now I'm 59. Now I'm 70. Do the standards that I used to have back then, do they still serve and honour me as I am today? And for those that still serve and honour us, that's fine. But for those that no longer serve and honour us, that are keeping us in our own measure unsuccessful or unhappy, is to recognise that we have the great joy of life. Today, right now, today, we can set new standards that honour who we truly are and that are closer to our truth. And once we set those new standards, we can then begin to move forward and commit to them and stick to them. So a simple thing that I did, just give it a couple of examples. One thing that I did when I was, I've been in business now on my own for 27 years, and 18 years completely utter failure. I was working 6 days a week, leaving the house at 7 in the morning, getting back at 10, 11 o'clock in the evening, working weekends, driving all over England, looking for business and scraps of business, and just making ends meet for years, not months, years. My clients were abusing my service because they would do any type of business and I would have to go there and just get it, and sometimes it cost me money to get that business. They'd abuse me in my service by not appreciating what I did. That was great for them, not good for me, not appreciating me. Make me work weekends, or say to me, see us tonight at 9 o'clock. That's the only time we've got for you. And I did that. And I missed out on the years and time with my wife. I missed out on the first half of the lives of my 2 eldest children. And I suffered pain, financially, not being happy. And when I woke up, so I can go inside and say, what's true for me? Derek, you're not happy because you're not who you truly are. discover who you truly are, and set standards from that place. So I contacted all the clients and customers I was working with or potentially working with, and I said, listen, at this point onwards, new me, new way of working, new standard, no more working weekends. If you want to see me, it has to be in week time. And by the way, no more evening appointments. I'm not doing that anymore. I have a family, and I have a wife. I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm a brother. This is who I am. And in the mornings, no more early morning meetings, because here's what I'm doing in the morning. I'm taking my kids to school as standard, because I'm going to have a quality time with them in the car. And the very first day, when I woke up that first day and realized what I had to do, it came from my genius, day one, and I began to write down all these new standards that I would live by, new rules, new qualities, new criteria, new levels of how it would be in my life. And as you know, business and my family life, clearly one was massively impacting the other. And that was really thinking about that first night. I wrote down all these. I created a color-coded chart, and then I laminated this chart. Yes, I did. I laminated the chart. I gave a copy, went home to my wife and my children, gave them a copy of this dad. I said, new dad, new husband, new standards. I've improved and changed those standards over time, but I committed to them. And I began to have my clients respect me more when I said, I'm a family now. I'm seeing my wife on a Friday. I don't work Fridays anymore. That's called Jerry time. My wife's called Jerry. And I found that I began to set a higher standard for myself. And as if by some quirk or magic, what I realized that for each of us, me included, that the respect I was getting and how people were treating me in my business and my life was based upon the standards that I set. Put here that another way. The respect we get in business, just like in life and in relationships, is based on the standards that we set. So when I raised my standards from my truth, people began to treat me and see me differently. And when the world treats you differently, everything will change for you. And that's how I became a millionaire. And that's how, working less than half the time, I made 12 times the income. That's how my story began in terms of results.
And that's very exciting because, when you take a look at what a lot of people do, they tend to go through a process of usually working for someone else, which is the same thing when we were back in school. We went to learn from someone else. And, then we were waiting for the approval. Did I get it right? And it's the same thing in the world of work for a lot of people. They go to a company because it gives them that same security perhaps school did. We were just supposed to go do this because our parents did this. And when you take a look at standards in the 10-second philosophy, you start really breaking that glass bubble out. You really start taking a look and dusting yourself off and getting to a place that at one point really becomes very uncomfortable because you're really breaking away the security that you're so used to, How do you see people really trying to adapt to a situation like that where they just realize they have to break those chains that they got so used to holding them? I think of, for instance, the movie The Shawshank Redemption, where Morgan Freeman's talking, to Andy Dufresne, his buddy, and after 20 years, he's realizing, this is an illusion, this thing you talk about, hope. He says, we're inside these walls for a long time, and there's a point that you get to depend on them. You get, and I think a lot of us get that way, and we could do that in a very short time. It doesn't take 20 years, but we get to a point where we depend on things. We get just comfortable. And, it gets to a point that you get so used to particular things that it really becomes amazing if you could step outside and truly see where you're at, how amazing it is at some of the things that you become used to.
Absolutely. And that's absolutely true. You know what it is? It isn't just about you, me, the individual. When we are used to being in a certain way, here's the reason why we get stuck in that place for years. When we are a certain way, the world treats us in a certain way.
Of course.
Therefore, when we make some shifts, what happens is for all of us is that the world will continue to treat us for a while at least at our old standards, because that's what they've been used to for the last 18 years or 20 years. And what's really interesting is that when I set all these new standards, and I got rid of most of my clients because they were really abusing my service. And I said, you know what, I'm going to pay a price here. Yep, I actually went backwards for a bit. But you know what? Then I leapt forward because it was like actually saying going backwards was my preparation for going forward. And the reason why I went backwards is that working in an organisation where there's lots and lots of self-employed agents, most of them thought, Derek's gone mad. He's lost the plot. He's got rid of 90% of his clients because they're making him work at the weekends. They're seeing the evenings, and he's not seeing his kids, and he's working 6-7 days a week. And I actually realised, you know what? They're in their own trap, thinking that that's how they have to be. Now, you know what? This bit of life was given to me. This life of the universe, this bit of creation, this gift of life came through me, has my personality on it. If I was meant to live it as someone else would live it, this light would have been given to them. But it was given to me. To discover what I have, who I am, and in love and light for others is to share my real truth. That's how I change the world. That's how I change my world. So for most of us, it's accepting that, yeah, we are in what's called, it's like a double bind where we're stuck who we are because we're afraid to change, and the world treats us that way, so it's difficult to change. But I'm not getting to 97 and saying, shucks, I should have done it my way. I'm about to shuffle off this mortal coil, and I should have done it my way. That's not going to be my story. My story is I'm going to be me. And I'm a better husband when I'm me. I'm a better father when I'm me. I'm a better brother when I'm me. I'm a better son when I'm me. I'm a better friend, advisor, consultant, coach, mentor when I'm really true to me. Because then I'm not second-guessing myself. I'm not going into mind or into ego. I'm showing my truth. And the beauty around that, when we stick to that truth long enough, others begin to recognize that truth. And we've all noticed it. When we are our truth, it's as if it gives permission to other people to be their truth when they're around you. And if you're in business, in any business you care to mention, when your customers, potential customers or clients, see you come from a place of truth, authenticity, centeredness and balance, they want to do business with you, whatever you're selling or service you've got. And that's how my business went through the roof. Because in case anybody's wondering, I didn't win the lottery. I didn't come across a huge client that gave me so much money that I made $1 million or anything. I worked in the same office, in the same building, but instead of sharing it with 3 other people, I did it on my own. I talked to the same type of people that began to say yes in a huge way. I worked with the same products, the same laws, and the same tax regulation. Exactly the same. So nothing had changed. I changed. I tapped into my genius, and I trusted that place. It gave me guidance. I followed the guidance, and that's where everything changed for me. Because it's one of those things where the philosophy says, you know what? You are good to go as you. Right now, you have everything inside of you. Because you came here with that stuff. And it's your lack of trust in yourself that isn't allowing you to tap in. So begin to trust yourself on small things. And then the magic happens.
You know, and I couldn't agree with you more, Derek. I'll give you an example. A lot of people, especially with the ideal of the internet and that you can actually create a website, for instance, and all of a sudden now Google has found a way to advertise on your website to create a cooperative program that you can actually do this, where you put Google ads on your website, okay? So here's what's really interesting, and this was a while ago. They started this thing called a report card, where they evaluate your site or your blog, and you're given, up to, I guess, 5 blue dots, 5 being the best, and of course 1 meaning, well, you really need to optimize, it needs improvement. And one of the areas is this. It's called revenue optimization. And this is a report card that they give you now, okay? And my particular, one of the blogs that I had a total of 1 blue stars out of 5 in revenue optimization. So I thought, oh, geez, what am I going to do here that, is going to get, of course, my blog up to a point where it's optimized up to 5. That means more money for me, okay? Well, what was interesting is I came across another website from a lady who's out there who really talks about website optimization and what you can do, and she addressed that particular issue. And she says, of course you can go ahead and you can do what Google suggests, but you've got to think about it this way. They're suggesting these things that are in their best interest. Of course, there's the illusion, and it could even be real, that if you do what they suggest, that it may mean more money for you, but really the idea is that the optimization optimizes them being able to advertise in a better way on your site than they were before. And I thought, how often do we actually buy into, let's say, the 5-star ideal of what somebody else says? And you can see where I'm kind of going with this within the standards of the 10-second philosophy.
Yeah, and I would say the answer to that, part of the answer to that is most of the time. That most people live their life based upon what they think other people will expect or do, have or make of them. And I'm not saying to live a life in an antisocial way, but if you want to be, look, when I was failing for those 18 years and I couldn't make ends meet, you listeners need to know, those that haven't read the book, need to know that I had to save my house from foreclosure, the family home, and go to court to do that. Another time I had we call them bailiffs, but you call them the sheriff in the house, valuing our furniture, because if I hadn't paid a certain property tax, then they were going to come back and take the furniture. And these humiliating points in my life, where I was trying to be what I thought the world would have me be, what the industry would have me be, and all these other things. And when it really began to change for me, was when I said to myself, hold on a second, I'm not a quitter. I'm not a person that dabbles. I've stuck at this for 18 years. I've read the books, done the goal plans, reviewed my goals, and listened to what the other teachers have said. And of course, here I am, or there I was at 38 years old, broken, depressed. So it's a question of what are the challenges that we're facing, that we are continually doing the same thing, maybe for decades, without going, hold on a second, stop, pause. How is that working out for you, that path that you're currently on? Maybe that the path you're on is one that's been put out for you by the world or the constructs of your life so far. And what if we can get to a place where we realize that the truth is, it's for you just to discover your path. Because if you set goals based on what the world would have you be or do what causes you to allow yourself to be called successful, that's pulling you away from yourself. When you go inside to your true self and discover who you really are and you dare to take that journey, you'll find that you're a genius. Because I realized after 3 years, I was a genius. People kept coming to me in levels of business. I had to get other people into my business to help them to service the clients that were coming. A few years later, I starred in a film with Jack Canfield and Dr. John Gray. Not long after that, I was approached to executive produce a film. And I executive produced a film that had won the PAFF Best Short Film in America last February. We were screened at Raindance for this short film. By the way, never done any of this stuff before. I was approached by Hay House, by an agent in Edmonton, Hay House, without showing Hay House a single word of what philosophy was all around. I met with them and shared the philosophy, and they said, we'll do that book. Here's the thing. No matter what goal one can set, it is going to be limited by the constructs of the world. We have no idea of the creativity inside, that you can't set a goal around that which you do not know you have. If you want to revolutionize your life, your business, your relationships, or maybe even the world, it's about going inside, discover your creative genius, and then acting from that place. Because none of us, not one of us, can set goals which are going to release that creativity. If we go inside, we can access our genius, and the creativity comes out in ways that will shock every single one of us. That's how you change the world.
And I couldn't agree with you more. It is completely amazing. I remember one of the best quotes to me that I've ever read was that if we were able to live to our fullest potential, we would simply astound ourselves. And that is so true, and how many times, for instance, and I know I heard this constantly, and I kept feeling like a failure as a child, sitting with my parents, my mother, and these classroom discussions with the teacher. Daniel is really an intelligent young boy. He's just not working up to his potential. And I don't know how many times I heard it, but I can tell you that I heard it enough where I thought to myself, what in the hell is my potential according to you? And how many times do we hear this?
and we know by now that people may predict, but only we can determine our own destiny. Who we truly are is within us, not for to be told by anyone. One of the things about the 10-second plus, the whole book, which came out of my genius, was that it wasn't about telling anybody what to do. Every single part of the book, the structure, the language, the order of the chapters, is designed to do one thing.
Hey, Derek, how dare you don't tell anybody how or what to do? What is that? You've lost your mind right there.
No. I mean, if I was a psychoanalyst, I'd say, hey, you're good to go. Why don't you just go inside and find out what's inside of you? Your genius will lead you better than any 40,000-year-old guru. You don't need a 40,000-year-old guru. You just need you in your life. Go inside. Stop. Pause. Settle down. Give your time some space. Turn off the phone. Close the doors. And allow yourself to go inside and discover and breathe and be in breath. And ask yourself the questions. Who am I? What's right for me? And you can even choose an area of your life. Relationships. Are these relationships right for me? Which relationships serve me? Which ones honor me? In your career, it's asking the right questions around what are the right standards for your career. Because most people put up with stuff. And they put up with stuff, and then they get to 60 or 70 or 80. And, that's more than half life gone. So it's about going inside and saying, what is true for me? And here's the thing, Daniel, that is that people I've met around the world of every culture, every faith, every belief system, most people have no idea that the way to change their lives is actually already inside them. Because the gift of life is that you came here with that stuff already inside of you. When you're going to stop and go within and tap into that place. And the language of that truth is your intuition. It's your gut. It's your instinct. It's following through from, it's ignoring the ego and the mind and going somewhere else. And that's where we get to our truth. So the answer to, or at least part of the answer to what you proposed there, was that each of us has our truth inside of us. And I know, that we wouldn't get into this life, we wouldn't get our spirit into these bodies, unless it knew what we could do in this place. But if we don't go there and trust ourselves and begin to act from that place, we'll never realize who we truly are. So that's where we discover our truth.
Mm-hmm. It's really fascinating. As people listening to this show, we're talking with Derek Mills. His book is The 10-Second Philosophy. That's right, it just takes 10 seconds to figure this out. Boy, if you need more than that, then I think you're starting to inquire too much and you're confusing something that really gets to be that simple. And it really is just that simple, from point A to point B to get there. And the fact is I think that there are so many books that are written on something like this, of course, goal setting and success. And there's always these keys. There are always these secrets. There are always these steps.
Yep.
But the fact is there's just one simple action. Just decide from this point forward, from right now, from right where you are, moving forward, to follow a 10-second philosophy.
Yep.
To sum all this up, as you're out there and you're engaging and you're talking with groups, what would you say? I mean, it seems to me that your particular seminars would be 10 seconds, maybe up to a minute, and then you can just send them home.
That's good. Let me explain a bit further about the 10-second philosophy.
I mean, that's a hell of a lot of money for a short period of time.
Hey, if you gave me the answer, it'd be good value, wouldn't it? Yeah. But you know what? You're not too far from the truth. Although, to be funny, a funny thing happens. I remember when I was talking to this chap a few years ago, and he said to me, the 10-second philosophy. Okay, so tell me your philosophy for success in 10 seconds. And he kind of missed the point. But my inner genius just threw up something. It just said, okay, 10-second philosophy is a word, a thought, a question, a phrase, or an idea that takes you inside of yourself, that causes you to act from that place, and you take the action from that place that changes your life. And it said, pretty good. That's about 10 seconds. Now, even though it missed the point, it did make me go inside and come up with that. But what we're really looking at saying is the answer that I gave wasn't actually that too far from the truth. Because let's suppose for a second that we're all part of a single universe. And I don't care whether you're a quantum physicist, now in which case we're all energy and we're all the same, or whether you're a spiritualist and we're all kind of part of the oneness, pretty similar language as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
All the same. And part of us has chosen to be in this physical world with rules like gravity, and if you don't work, you don't eat, and if you don't pay your bills, they take your house. So there are parts of us. But one of the things that I found was really interesting is that if we're part of the oneness, and we're part of the same energy, it seems that this type of, let's call it a machine, works to serve and help itself. So wherever we are in our life, the universe seems to be throwing out to us, hey, this part isn't working as it should be with the gift that was given to it. So I'm going to give it a word, a thought, or a question, or a phrase, or an idea, or an opportunity. Because those that haven't read the book yet probably don't appreciate that there was a simple one question that changed the whole of my life. And that was when, at the end of 2003, almost at 10 o'clock in the evening, the security guard comes in to lock up the building, and he comes when the last person in the whole building, and he asked me how come I was working at that time. I asked for more time. He said, give me 10 more minutes. He went away. I asked for even more time. And then he just looked at me, the best coach I ever had, and he just said to me, what time did you get in this morning?
7 o'clock.
And I said, well, yeah, I was up at 6, I was in for 7. I was on the road at 7, got in for 8, it's now 10. And then he walked away. That was it. That was the universe job done. And when I realized that in the 10 seconds that followed, I said, hold on a second. I got in there. I was up at 6, on the road at 7, in the office for 8, haven't seen my kids in the morning. I'm always back when they're in bed. I'm to my wife since the previous weekend, and I'm happy and I'm broken, and these aren't working, and my clients are abusing me. I said, my life is disastrous. And in that moment, my true self reached out to me and spoke to me, and it said, hey, you're not happy because you're not who you truly are, and you can't be truly happy as not you. Come inside, live from this place, come inside your truth, and from a practical point of view, stop setting goals taking outside of yourself. That's your promise of happiness tomorrow. You're going to be happy today. Set standards that keep you in your truth. Therefore, you get to be happy today. And these concepts, they weren't even words, they were just concepts that came through me. And I took action. That my first 10-second moment came from that one question. I believe, therefore, that the universe seems to be wanting to collaborate with us to give us 10-second moments, a word, a line in a song, an advert, an overheard conversation, a question from a security guard, a thought, a phrase, an idea. And the whole of the book is filled with words, thoughts, questions, phrases, and ideas that cause the reader to go inside to discover their truth. Then it's about acting from that place. That's what the 10-second philosophy is all about.
And it's so fascinating, your approach to the whole thing, because, a lot of times I think when people set goals, their whole attitude is, I need to succeed. It's the same thing when we're in school and we, learn a lesson, and then there's a test. What score did we get? And of course, when you didn't score well, then you're back to hearing, for instance, in front of your parents or your mother, your father, from the teacher,
yeah.
You're an intelligent person, but you're just not working up to your potential. And the fact is, what is that?
Yeah.
The truth is, what is this potential? Because I don't think many of us live up to our potential, because if we did, we sure wouldn't want to be on Earth.
Well, one of the things that's true about that statement is that we don't live up to our potential, most people, because we have the wrong measure.
Right.
See, goals and most what people call success measures, it's the wrong count. I want to just throw something out here that says, how about we think about life this way? That the reason that we're here, remember, depends on people's belief systems, but I believe I was something before I was born. And I'll be that something again when I've shuffled off this Morse code, when I die. And I am still that something now, but this time encased in a physical body. So I'm eternal, and we know this to be true energetically and spiritually. I'm eternal. So how about this new, different measure of success or happiness? What if happiness in this part of our journey is about discovering that which we came here with and getting that out into the world in love and light for others? What if that's what success is about? What if it isn't about what we can add on, what we can get, and what we can count? What if it's nothing more than discover the beauty and the gifts of your eternal abilities, your talents, and the love and the light inside of you. And then finding out what that is for the rest of your life, discovering more of that. It's a journey for all of us. And as you discover that which you are, to be that which you are in your life. And that's it. Because that keeps you present. That keeps you in the now. It keeps you in light. It keeps you in truth. And all of those things means you are happy now. And the world benefits with you as a now. And I'm talking benefiting not just from an altruistic point of view, but if you're in business, if you're a husband, if you're a wife, if you're a child, if you're a friend, you get your truth and your light into your business or your relationships. Everyone around you will not just benefit from your light for their own path, but it would lead them to want to be more of who they truly are. So as we become more of who we are and share that light, our genius guides us and others begin to turn towards their own light. And you know what, when this is really important, Daniel, because we've had some difficult times, all of us, in the last 5 years, because the economic climate, the banks, the credit crunch, property being repossessed or foreclosed upon, jobs being lost, challenges in relationships, divorce rates going up, financial pressures, all these things, when it's really, really dark and we get to live our true selves, it's for each of us to be the person that others turn to when it gets dark. And when we live life as our true self, we become the person that others turn to when it gets dark. And as we share that light, even in business, when we have to countermeasure, when we share our light with others that need our guidance, they light up. And the two lights now make a better path for them and a better path for us. So in sharing who we truly are, everything, the world, our community, our families, and we get to, if you use the word potential is achieved by letting the light out and illuminating a path for others, lighting them up, and having them illuminate the path for you. Then we all get to see what's really there. And the more we see that's there, the more we get to share. This is a different way of being. And I want to share with anyone that's cynical about this stuff, if you're into any kind of spiritual works at all, I had a conversation earlier this year between Wayne Dyer, who's some people call the third most spiritual teacher in the world, and the number one most spiritual teacher in the world, Eckhart Tolle. And as I overheard this conversation, one of the things that made me just go, oh yeah, is when they said, we don't set goals. We do not set goals. And this is what was revealed to me 10 years ago, because what came through me was truth, wisdom that I did not know that I had, and that will happen for all of us. The truth I'm talking about and the genius I'm talking about is not in the mind or the ego. It's part of what we came here as, and it links us to the universe, which is where truth comes through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Derek, I was thinking of something that I heard a long time ago. It was this series that was on tape, and it was a trilogy where the speaker would impose a particular question. And it was met by people. For instance, Wayne Dyer was on this, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, all guests who have been on the Beyond 50 radio program, Dr. Bernie Siegel, and it goes on, but it was really fascinating. And it was so unique to meet and talk with these people because directly they say exactly what you're talking about here about your book, The 10-Second Philosophy. And the whole idea is to really drop everything that you've learned. You really hear even Christ say this, that,
yes.
Enter the kingdom as a child. So one of my questions, of course, is I'm sure that you actually ask your children for guidance quite a bit now. Because they're not jaded by all this goal setting and nonsense that we tend to live by as adults. But what I wanted to get to was this particular message I have brought up on the show before to people, just to give them an idea of how encouraging what we're talking about here is. And that is this. And I can't even remember, but with Dr. Bernie Siegel, I actually attributed this to him because that was the name that came to mind when I heard this. and I don't know if it was him that actually said this, and he doesn't even remember anyway, but what it was is he said this. He says, you have to think in billions of years of evolution, of billions of years of creativity, of the universe. Nobody can screw up quite like you can. And I thought to myself, once I heard that, I felt so liberated because he was right.
And isn't it funny though that I'm sure that staying in that vein of your other guest, that when Wayne Dyer said that we come from something, and he also believes, as you know, that we go to something, our spirit moves on. But he said, you know what? The universe looked after us absolutely fine in the womb, absolutely fine. And then we get born, and then we say, hey, I'll take it from here. And the world says, I'll take it from here, and then the world just completely messes it up. But I want to just get this really, really clear, because when I was in that place of loss for those 18 years, I'm taking into account that prior to me to becoming an adult, when I was a child, I lost my mother aged 13. I had a stutter, a speech impediment. And I began to be asked questions. How did you go from that kind of emotional trauma as a child, having a stutter, being broken in your 20s and 30s, being quote-unquote depressed? How did you go from there to where you're at now? And I said, actually, it was by going inside and discovering that which was already there. Because when I did all the other things, which are just the expression of where I am on the inside, and that's all they are. That's all they are. They're not me. They're just an expression of where I've got to so far on this journey. I realized that I must have been a genius. I must have been attached to the source all of those lean 18 years. It must have been there all the time. So that is inside every one of us, is that whether we tune in or not. And the way to tune into our truth and to the source, which links us to everything else, through the conduits, to everything else, is by being present in the now. Because when we listen to the message of Jesus, when Jesus walked this earth 2,000 years ago, and he taught us many things, but he did actually specifically say, remember this. And he gave us a prayer. As a Christian, I was taught the Lord's Prayer, and pretty much said it almost every day of my life. And in the middle of that Lord's Prayer, there were these 4 words that kept coming back to me once I woke up, 9 years ago. What kept coming back to me was 4 words: give us this day. Give us this day. And I began to dwell and take that inside, and kept coming back to me again. I think, give us this day. Because what Christ did not say was, give us this week, give us this month, give us this quarter, give us this fiscal year, give us this 3-year business plan, give us this 20-year goal. I believe Son of God. And whether you believe a Son of God or a prophet, he didn't misspeak. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. If he'd meant to say, give us this week or give us this quarter, he'd have said so. He said, give us this day. The message is, be present. Be in the now. Be who you are now. Discover who you are. Share who you are today. Love today. Care today. Give today. Get everything you can into the world and through the world and from the world today. And we know this is qualified later in Scripture when he then said, have no worry for tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. And that did confuse me for a while in a sleep state, because I didn't know what that meant. Because I'm thinking, how do you not worry about tomorrow? I'm a human being. And what came through me once I woke up was, the way to not worry about tomorrow is to be who you truly are today. Because that's when your genius comes into your life. That's when you get to wake up, reattach to the source, let your gifts and abilities that flow through you, and trust yourself. Bring that into your relationships. Live from that place, and set practical standards that keep you in that place, in your truth. And if you live from that place, in the now, present, we haven't got to worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
Couldn't agree with you more. For those of you tuning in, we're talking about the 10-second philosophy. Our guest today, Derek Mills. Derek, ultimately I think what it comes down to for our listeners, and, certainly take this and just ponder it for the day that you have, as you were just suggesting. Ponder it for the moment that you have right now, because this is that moment, is simply this. If you can get to a place where you can feel good about who you are, if there was any one goal that you could ever achieve, I would think that would be it. What do you think?
I think that each of us comes here knowing who we are, and we get lost. True happiness is the journey of discovery of who we truly are and living from that place. And that's it. Because whatever's inside of us that we came here with, and I think that every human being, whether they experience it or not, came here with stuff, great stuff inside of them. And it would not come inside of you, would not be inside of you, unless to have it outside of you in love and benefit for the rest of the world. So it sounded, to me, it became my truth to say, discover that which is inside of you. That brings happiness. Be that which you discover. That brings happiness. Do it in love and life and benefit of the world. That brings happiness. And guess what? For those that think this is soft and fluffy stuff, you do those things and you be who you truly are, and you give value to the world will pay you handsomely. If we go back to the Bible for a second, we know that the earthly father of Jesus was Joseph. And both Jesus and Joseph, we are told, were carpenters. And they had abilities and talents. And they made tables and chairs and cupboards and furniture. And we're not told anywhere in the Bible that they gave that away for free. So I believe they were professional at what they did. They discovered their talents, and they traded those talents with the world, and the world paid them as professional carpenters. And the reason I'm saying that is I do meet people of every faith in religion and belief and culture around and colour around the world who are beautiful, enlightened people who somehow have a block around if they get their gifts and their talents out into the world, they're not allowed to have money back or to have value back.
Right.
This is about the oneness. If you give to the world and you have a talent and you create and you give value to the world, Jesus and Joseph did not give away the furniture at the door. If they did, it would have said so. They were carpenters, which meant they created and they gave and they traded and they exchanged and they got paid for what they did. And they gave their talent. So it's okay. It's okay to be inspired and to give value to the world and for you to feel value back for you. I just want to make that point because that's where my business success came from, is by really discovering my gifts and talents, sharing it with others, and they weren't getting that feeling with other people. They weren't getting the authenticity. They weren't getting the gift of that connection with other people. And they just kept saying to me in bigger and bigger numbers, we'll do business with you. Because what we feel here, we don't feel elsewhere. This is what we can all do.
And you have to consider, too, for our listeners, is the idea of money as a man-made creation in such a way that says simply this: money is nothing more than an exchange of a promise. That's all that it really is. For instance, you may give away or use your talent, for instance, to inspire others to feel inspired. And in this audience that pays you, some of these people may need, in the idea of the carpenter, a new roof or a fixture in their bathroom or, food in their refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
These may not be your talents, to fix the roof. They may not be your talents to fix the fixture in the bathroom. So what you promise, or what is promised to you from these people who don't have these talents, is this is my promise that you've given me value, so I'm going to give you value so that you can seek out the particular person that can actually fulfill those things that you desire or need done. And that's all money is. It's just a promise that something that has been exchanged can be fulfilled through somebody else with the talent that has that. That's all money really truly is. And I thought that was such a wonderful thing that was displayed in the movie Phenomenon, starring John Travolta. I know that I tend to, during the broadcast, use movies, but I like that because people reference this. But he says, I'll tell you what, I need solar panels, and this guy who needed his truck fixed says, well, I don't know anything about solar panels. And he says, yeah, but this guy does, and this guy over here needs a well. You know how to dig wells. You go and dig his well. He'll put my solar panels on, and I'll go ahead and fix your truck. That's all money really is.
It is, and I love that example. I think it's called, what's it called, the Phenomenon?
Phenomenon,
There's an angel with wings.
Right. This one is where he ends up with a brain tumor but able to solve problems.
Yes, solve problems, that's right. The other one he had wings was called Michael, wasn't it, I think?
Yes.
But what I love about that, about the Phenomenon and that story is that, we all come here with different talents, allow us to help and to make that exchange with others. That's a great way of holding that. You know what? It's not about that the world calls us and gives us sameness and says this is what it means to be successful. Because that's what it's done for the last 100 years. At least, to be successful, you do this and you have this, then we call you successful. Discover that which you are and be that. That's true success, because that's the gift that you came here with. That's what you have got inside of you. You have that. And then allow other people to be who they are. You asked me a question about my children guiding me. There's more wisdom in that question than you think. Because absolutely, that's why I quote my children in the book. My youngest daughter was 8 years old. She gave me something I quoted in the book, and she said, "Little things make up your life, don't they, Daddy?" Little things make up your life. We were talking about the philosophy. We were on holiday in Ireland a few years ago as I was writing notes for the book, and she was looking at some of the notes, and I said, "Here's what I'm doing." And I respected her spirit enough to share what was happening in the book, although she's 8 years old. And because of that respect, I was still blown away when she gave me these quotes saying, little things make up your life. She's 8 years old. You take that to wherever you want to take that, but she got it. Her spirit got that. The other thing that the spirit gave me, I made all the notes of the comments that she phrased because she wrote them down for me, and said to me, "Does love keep you alive, or you?" 8 years old. And these messages was actually my open spirit opened her spirit. And that doesn't happen until you're 28 or 38 when people begin to connect with you in that way. But isn't it true, therefore, that the wisdom that she gave me, I'm thinking her wisdom of an 8-year-old is now in Bali, Jakarta, Jamaica, Holland, Germany, Anaheim, San Jose, is all around the world, because I had to share what her spirit connected through to me. So that wisdom is about going back to that and acting like a child and being like a child when you're prepared to open up. And when we give our spirit that okayness to say it's okay to be you, and when you allow what's there to come through, you will surprise yourself. And that's a message, I think, for all of us, and it's what changed my life around. It's what took me from being a broke, depressed stutterer to someone who can help others with a talent that he was given. And that gift in me is very simple. I realize it's about helping others to reveal their gift. And that's it.
And the thing is for those out there who have children, why don't you pose the problems you're having to your children and see how they solve them?
Yeah. Without the limitations and the restrictions.
You'd be really amazed the kind of solutions that they come up with.
Absolutely. And that is so wise, because when we actually get to a place where we are open enough to ask that question, we're taking a better journey for ourselves, just by being willing to ask that question, regardless of what the answer is. Our willingness to ask that question is, so it's really funny that I kind of love my life, I love what I do. But when I'm sitting down with someone, advising them on their, for example, I've got a wealth management business, and advising them on wealthy individuals in the UK, what to do with their money and how to look after it, and set up trusts and how to organise their taxes and all the rest of it. And I don't care how academically clever they are when they come in. I don't really care that they're being CEO of a company or whatever it might be. When they come in to the space in my office, without words and with words, every part of me says, it's okay. I'm going to hold a space for you that allows you to be who you truly are in this space. And the more you can open up and be who you are, truly in this space, the better I can guide you. The better you'll communicate what your real intentions are, and the better I can guide you. You may not have felt this before, and if this isn't for you in this time and place, that's absolutely fine. And I hold that space for people. And when we hold a space for a child, for ourselves, or for others, more comes through that space than with any other connections that they would have. And every one of us that comes from the universe, that comes from God, that comes from the source, as part of the oneness, is looking in this physical world for people, other beings, to hold a space for them. And when we are holding space for others, that is also part of why we're here.
Derek, I'd sure love to continue a lot longer than this, because this is such a wonderful conversation on such a wonderful and yet simple book. But the fact is, we have taught our listeners today, don't set goals, set standards for yourself. And that's the way to truly live, because that will remarkably change your life. Derek, is there a website people can find out more about this?
Yeah, I appreciate that the concept is a different one, and it's basically from my genius. But the way to begin the process is by visiting Derek, that's DEREK -Mills, MILLS.com. Derek-Mills.com. And there's plenty of resources there. There's some videos around why goals don't work. There's some audios there, and there's literally a download, a PDF you can download that takes you 4 simple steps, reviewing your standards. I'm also on Twitter at Derek Mills1. I'm on Facebook, Derek Mills, the 10-second philosophy. Follow me on that, and you'll see lots of resources there and things I've written and blogs and all types of stuff. Just use the resource. Sometimes all we need in life to be happy and successful is another way of looking at things, a different philosophy. And that's what we're offering here.
Derek, thank you so much for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm sure our listeners are going to find a profound change as they take their very next step. What a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me. I really honor and appreciate that. And thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you. We want to thank you, the listeners out there. Again, Derek Mills is our guest, and the book is The 10-Second Philosophy. Again, don't live by goals, but set standards for yourself. You'll find a profound change in your life in the way that you look at things. Be sure as you're looking, look on the web and find us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. And we do have a free weekly e-news update where you can find out more about Derek Mills and how to get his book as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.